Chapter 3, The Beauty of a Human Life. The Beauty of a Human Life, Uniqueness. Living a human life can be very meaningful and precious. This is because we always have a mix of positive and negative emotions, pleasure and pain. This mix of pleasure and pain can push and challenge us to seek out and open our minds to greater insights. The irony is that if we have too much pleasure and life is too easy and positive, there is absolutely no incentive to learn, grow, and push ourselves. In a way, you can become numb and complacent because of the ease of everything. On the other hand, if everything is too difficult, there are too many challenges and too much pain, and you feel trapped in your life, you are also not able to move forward and grow, learn, and investigate like you might otherwise. Therefore, this mixture of positive and negative is hopefully enough of a blended contrast to push you to grow and learn and maybe desire to become a more evolved version of yourself. The more evolved you are, the less you suffer and the happier you will feel. With that being said, some people do seem to require more pain and difficulty than others to be pushed to grow. One of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is learning from other people's pain, mistakes, and lessons, so you don't have to repeat them yourself. If you can learn by observation of others around you and not needlessly copy harmful lessons, it's like fast-tracking your evolution. The beauty of a human life, human pain. No, we will all experience a certain amount of suffering and stress in our lives. It seems inevitable. In reality, just the daily functioning of being human requires some level of mental, emotional, and physical stress, even when we have all our needs met and are generally happy. Stress and pain from stress are also partly self-inflicted. With some people, you could say it's largely self-inflicted. For example, for one person, getting the wrong order on a breakfast item in a cafe is literally enough for that person to feel his or her entire morning or day is ruined. However, for another person, even extremely life-changing events, such as losing a job or a marriage, may not upset them that much. The person may even feel relieved or have less stress. Therefore, the respective pain created due to something occurring in one's life is not necessarily due to the thing itself. The suffering is often in relation to one's perception and his or her view of the world. Another perspective on this could be to imagine we live in a universe that is intelligent by design. It loves us so much that it really wants us to see reality more deeply and get out of repeating harmful cycles we may be trapped in. Specifically, this larger force wants to free us of the mental, emotional, or physical loops we may be unable to get out of. Sometimes to do that, it's necessary to become extremely uncomfortable in those cycles and situations until we feel we can't stand them anymore and must make a change. This can also be what is meant by hitting rock bottom when we decide we can't continue living a certain way anymore. If there is a point or goal, you could say the aim of the pain is to push ourselves out of our own way and out of the cycles we are stuck in. By doing this, we can maybe get to a space beyond points and end goals. This is a space of limitless, infinite love that has no boundaries or conditions. The ego is no longer a barrier, and we are literally in a state of joy. Close your eyes, fall in love, stay there. Rumi. The above quote from Rumi points to this state of joy. It is probably not really about falling in love in the romantic sense. What is most important is to close your eyes, meaning getting yourself, your labels, judgments, attachments, and the things you cling to for reality out of the way. Stop the attachment to the world you see, and you will experience an infinite, limitless field of love that is pure, positive potential beyond our mental concepts. Stay there means to exist in that space where your attachment to labels, mental constructs, and things is gone, and you are existing as love. Existing as spaciousness and being. These are amazingly simple, straightforward, and clear instructions on being joy, being yourself, and being pure consciousness. Being human is a unique and precious experience in contrast to any other creature on Earth. We have the ability to self-reflect, create change, and understand our consciousness and reality in ways that other beings on this planet simply cannot. The things we take most for granted and are the most normal to us are often the problems that keep us trapped in cycles. This is why pain can be so valuable. It shakes things up a lot. It has the potential to make us stop and question our lives and our perspectives, and to question and investigate normalcy and reality. What do you do when you hit rock bottom? You start to stop, detach, and question things. You reflect on yourself and your life. Otherwise, why would you do it? Meditation is another incredible and excellent way to begin to transcend these limitations and to investigate and question what is normal. However, people don't usually begin meditation unless they are uncomfortable and trying to learn how to manage difficult situations or are in crisis. Unless it's a cultural norm or a person is being somehow forced to meditate, someone usually begins to change because he or she is suffering and struggling with something. We look inward when the outside becomes too painful and/or we just can't make sense of it anymore and are hoping to find a new way to obtain some answers. Human beings are fortunate in some ways because even though we often make ourselves feel or act in crazy ways because of what is happening in our minds, we also have the ability to have insight into why and how our experiences are happening. Unlike other creatures, we can question everything and anything. We can search for a higher meaning and understanding to get beyond the current state of mind. If there was only constant happiness, contentment, and pleasure, there would be very little in-depth reflection. We would be living in a state of mostly relaxed, heavenly bliss. Although that's wonderful, it doesn't allow for much introspection or detachment and allows us to search for what is beyond the appearance and surface understanding of things. When everything is wonderful, we can become complacent, checked out, and almost too relaxed. Have you ever noticed that it's only when something is really painful or there is a lot of suffering that you get help? If, for example, you have many relationships end, you may only then start questioning what relationships mean to you, what happens in them, and what you think and feel concerning relationships. It's nearly always the pain, not the pleasure, that leads to questioning and deeper introspection. This is unfortunate, but seems to be the nature of reality at this point. Within suffering, there are tremendous amounts of insight, understanding, questioning, and breakthroughs beyond ourselves that can take place. This is not possible for other creatures such as dogs, cats, or cows, for example. They are sentient beings and should be treated with kindness and love as important creatures. However, they do not have the capacity to reflect on themselves and question reality as humans do. The things that happen in our lives and everyday realities are opportunities for noticing and observing reality. They are opportunities that no other creature that I'm aware of at this point has. We live in a world that is a blend of pain and joy. It is a never-ending blend of the two. When you think that everything is great and will continue to be that way, it all falls apart. On the other hand, when you think that life will never change and everything is awful, it changes again. You may experience this mix of joy and pain in a day, an hour, or 5 minutes. We push away or resist the pain because we don't like it. We hold on to what feels good or even cling to it. And we feel neutral towards things that don't seem to bring us pleasure or pain. Many of us live our lives in this way. We tend to follow whatever we think will bring the greatest amount of pleasure and the least amount of pain, and not notice the neutral things. This can lead to living in fear of things that could hurt us, clinging to things that bring pleasure, or fearing losing what we thought made us happy. It can also mean we miss a lot of life that is in the perceived neutral things by disregarding them and not giving them value. By ignoring much of what is neutral, we disregard the majority of reality and probably obsess over what seems to bring us the greatest joy or pain. It's like zeroing in on certain things while ignoring others. It means putting a lens on reality so you aren't actually seeing it clearly and probably missing much more than you know. The beauty of a human life, being an observer. There are ways to rise above being trapped in a seemingly endless loop of gravitating toward pleasure and resisting or fighting against the pain. One of the solutions is to become more of an observer in your life. This does not mean that you are cold and uncaring. Rather, it means that you are learning to notice. Instead of the normal operating mechanism being reacting or even responding, it becomes just noticing. Noticing in itself is very powerful and can reduce the intensity and frequency of emotions. By noticing, we become more aware and detached. Instead of reacting to whatever is happening or may appear to be happening around you, just notice it. A major principle of mindfulness and mindful living is the practice of noticing. You take note of everything you experience within you emotionally, mentally, and physically, and what is happening or occurring outside of your world. With mindfulness comes the understanding that when you are in or living something, it's hard to see the whole of it. If you are too close to something, it's hard to see it because you're lacking contrast and objectivity. However, when you detach and can be more of a third party objectively viewing it, it's much easier to see and have insights than if you were in it. Another way of putting this to use is the metaphor of trying to explain water to a fish. The fish has lived in water its entire life. It was born in water and will likely die in the water. Therefore, it's practically impossible for it to understand life outside of the water. If the fish had the cognitive capacity and ability to live for some moments outside the water and see the contrasting experiences of reality, then the insights about its lived reality and what water and air are would be huge. Of course, a fish can't survive outside of the water or reflect on the difference between living in water or the air. This is merely an analogy for detaching yourself from what you've always known and experienced in order to have a better, larger view of what is really happening. Similarly, I've found that by taking more of a bird's eye view whenever possible, I'm able to discern a lot more insights and understanding about reality than when I'm in the thick of the drama. When you're in drama, it's easy to get sucked into whatever the newest incident, pain, excitement, strong emotion, frustration, or difficulty is. The beauty of a human life, levels of realization. In this book, everything comes from directly lived experiences and the insights and understandings that developed as a result. None of what I write about here comes directly from studying. However, studying has been part of my journey. Experiences with studying have impacted my ability to have these insights and probably some of the wording on how I express the concepts. I find I'm still in awe when there is a new insight, and I have to remind myself that this is an ever-unfolding process that just keeps getting better. The nature of reality is the ultimate, and the ultimate is limitless. There is no getting there. Reality is more of a realization that you don't get there, and the destination is not an end. The destination is limitless, infinite expansiveness. It is an ever greater unfolding of higher energy shifts and deeper levels of understanding. I would like to cut to the end here for the sake of everyone reading this. The end, if you want to call it that, is the experience of a total connection and oneness and unity with all that exists in a space of infinite limitlessness. It's seeing beyond just the outer appearance of reality to a deeper level of energetic connection and unity. It's kind of like being able to see the light or energy in everything, everywhere around you. There is a field of energy that permeates and makes up absolutely everything. When you can see you are part of this and everything is this light or energy in manifested form, there is an all-encompassing unity and interconnectedness. You get yourself out of the way finally, and you see that you are the other. You are the tree, the grass, the sky, the other person, everything. The same energy that is in everything else is in you and the other. There is no real separation, only the view or perspective of separation. The separation is an illusion of our projection and what we're able to see with our eyes and physical senses. This all-pervasive energy or light may seem or feel like different things to different people. It could seem like a sense of peacefulness, a sense of love, joy, compassion, contentment, or understanding, or a feeling of relief, like everything makes sense finally. Whatever arises, don't feel like you need to cling to it. It's like holding on to the air, you can't do it. Through a relaxed detachment, through allowing and letting go, you may begin to see these deeper layers. It's not through obsessing, clinging, or forcing that you connect to the deeper layers. Rather, it is by opening up and letting go in this state of being, a sort of nameless state of being that cannot really be explained sufficiently with words or concepts. It is a lived experience of spaciousness, unity, connection, and love. Like watching a butterfly float from flower to flower, you just let it be. It's best not to try to trap it. Its beauty comes from the seemingly effortless color, grace, and flow of its being. Eventually, over time, this perspective becomes more integrated into your reality. Not only do you experience the outer projection of the world like everyone else, but you also live in this incredible understanding that everything is energy, made of the energy of love, limitless, and one field in manifested form. The beauty of a human life, the struggle of shifting perspective. Ultimately, and even in the medium term, life is much better when we notice our cycles and work to disintegrate them, letting go of the attachment to self and the story of self. The lives of everyone around us are also much better. However, it doesn't mean it's a naturally smooth process at all times. Some common pitfalls with this process are having insights and major shifts either momentarily or for a period of time, becoming attached to them and thinking you are special or somehow superior because you are able to see reality more clearly than others. It may seem bizarre and almost counterintuitive for someone to think he or she is somehow superior after having insights of everything being one manifested into countless forms, the concept of the limited self falling away, and recognizing that everything is love. But it happens. Shifting our perspectives into seeing all as one happens over a period of time so it can be integrated more easily. The more you adapt to the perspective, the more natural it feels. At some point, the new perspective is not a big deal and becomes the new normal. Seeing yourself in everyone and everything and seeing reality as both the projected reality as well as the physical manifestation of one energy becomes second nature. However, one of the traps in this process is getting in your own way. For me personally, the concept of ego hasn't always made a ton of sense. The term is thrown around so much that it loses a singular meaning. I have found the word ego largely unhelpful. It is one of those words people act like they understand, but really don't. The ego is an attachment to the story of who you are and how you perceive the world through your own limited perspective. Focusing on something much greater than ourselves helps to keep the limited self out of the way. Another way of summarizing this is that you need to get the smaller self out of the way in order to connect to a larger self. This larger self is the unity of energy with all that is. Some call this God, some call it source, and some call it a field of energy. For me, I feel the word God, like some of the other words here, is a bit loaded and can be confusing and cause issues. I have found that taking the perspective that everything is an infinite field of unconditionally loving energy has been the most helpful for me. Evan, what do you think or feel when you consider a larger self or that which is greater than you?